looper enthusiasts, which is you because otherwise you wouldn't be watching this. Today we're looking at one of the classics and one of the high quality ones in the looper industry, which is Carl Martin's gigantic OCTASWITCH. Okay? It's red, you've probably seen it, you've probably watched videos, so I'm very glad that you made a stop here, where we just take our time with this thing. This is the OCTASWITCH. There are many 8-channel loopers. There's big time confusion about loopers. I get questions you would not believe. So I'm going to try to explain this as best as I can. You will still misunderstand things. That's simply the nature of loopers, okay? They're a mystery. This thing has 8 loops, meaning you can put 8 pedals or 8 groups of pedals, each in its individual in-out loop, with the benefit of being able to turn the complete loop off, therefore also turning off all the cables and the pedal and all the signal quality that you lose by going through all these pedals. So instead of going through your, let's say, 10 pedals, you go through 1 or 2 at a time, and the rest of the signals going straight through, which means you're saving signal quality. The question is always like, well, but how does the looper sound? Well, first of all, on my video, link below, on my channel, link below, there is a video where I compare, I think 9, 10, 8 different loopers, something like this, in terms of sound quality, and you can actually listen for yourself whether they suck sound. But the point is, they definitely don't suck as much sound out of your signal chain as not using a looper. So, just the pedals and the cable will suck more than when you use a looper. So it's always a good idea. Of course, it's also convenient for switching. There are loopers who do not remember any switching. They're simply helping you to keep the signal clean. This one remembers which loops are active, which means one step on a button and you will have a certain combination of pedals happening. This does not have any menus, banks, and complicated programming options. This is very, very straightforward. It has 8 loops, it has 8 switches, it has 8 presets. Okay, so what you could you do that? No, you could not. I'm sorry. So it has 8 loops, 8 presets. It has 2 triggers. And I get trigger functions mean you can switch your amp. And I get so many questions about this. If your amp has a DIN input, it looks like a MIDI cable, or some kind of proprietary input for your for the amp switcher that comes with the amp, and it doesn't look like a 1/4 inch, you're gonna have to either manufacture your own cable or not be able to switch your amp with the looper. It's that simple. Now this has 2 trigger outputs. Loop number 8 has a stereo return. It's only 1 plug, which means it's probably an insert cable. And the whole thing has a stereo output. Now, there's a little switch here where you can switch the whole thing between buffered and unbuffered. And in my video where you hear it, you actually can hear both versions. Buffered is just nice. I don't actually know what it does. I tried to read up on it. This is not my world. I've got no freaking clue what buffering does. But it makes the signal better. Unless, of course, you've got certain types of pedals like some wahs or fuzzes that don't like the buffered signal and just can't handle it. Therefore, here you can turn it on or off. So this is pretty simple. Guitar out in stereo if you want to. If loop number 8 has a stereo pedal connected. It's going through loop 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then out. That's pretty much it. Okay, there's no specific extra loops for using in your effects loop. Okay, so it's all meant to be in front of the amp. Now, how do you program it? How do you set up what preset number 3 engages, which loops are in preset number 3? Well, that's actually very simple. Check this out. 2, 3. There are little dip switches, they're called, and there's 8 of them. So if in preset number 3 you want loop 1 to be active, all you do is 1 on, and I want my delay in 7 to be on, so you push 7 up, and that's it. It's as simple as it possibly gets, no menus, no nothing, 8 sounds you can program, and that's it. And the same thing goes for the triggers. If I want preset number 3 to have trigger number 1 on, I move the dip switch on 3 up, and now preset number 3 has trigger 2, in this case, on. Okay? Now, one cool thing is the whole thing can be operated with batteries. And it actually comes with batteries already inside. They're not installed, you have to plug them in, but if you wanted to, you could run the whole thing on 2 batteries. It's a nice option. I think it's not very practical because you're going to have this whole thing installed on your board with all the cables. How do you get to the batteries? I mean, you have to keep the cables rather long to be able to lift it. Just use, where is it? Use a power plug. It'll probably pull something along the lines of 300, maybe 350 milliamps. So make sure you use a high milliamp out on your power supply. It has a general bypass switch, so hit bypass, go straight to your amp, that's it. One cool thing which we're gonna check out is Carl Martin guys told me each loop is true bypass. Now the possibilities, it might mean, for example, let's just be stupid, you've got 8 guitars. All 8 guitars go into the returns of the loops. And then you can actually program the different presets to use 8 different guitars going to 1 amp. And you can simply switch between the guitars with a looper. The other way around, if you use the sends, you could use it as an amp switcher, meaning switching between different amps. So if I have 3 different amps, loop number 5, 6, and 7, the sends will go to different amps. Of course, if I use send on loop number 5 as my output, but there's no return, well, there won't be return, nothing in the end will come out in the back here. So here's the setup I'm going to attempt. It's crazy! I'm going to put, let's say, 5 pedals in this thing. 5 loops. They're going to be in 1 through 5. Okay? So, let's do 6 pedals. 6 pedals. And instead of using output left and right, I'm going to use loops 7 and 8 as sends to 2 different amps. So if I have loop number 7 engaged on my preset, it will go to 1 amp. If I have loop number 8 engaged, it will go to another amp. So 2 different amps. I'm going to use external switch 1 to switch one of the amps. The other amp will be a 1-channel amp. But in the FX loop of the 1-channel amp, I will have Carl Martin's headroom, which is, let me show you. It is a very big, super sweet spring reverb. And because it's so big, you don't want it on your pedal board. So you're going to have it behind your amp, but it has trigger inputs. And I'm going to use the remote bypass input to have the OCTASWITCH turn this thing on and off. So it's not going to be in a loop, but I can switch it on and off from the OCTASWITCH with trigger 2. This is a rather complicated setup. But just to show you the possibilities of using this to go to 2 different amps. This is my plan. If it works, we will see. Now let me bitch about a couple of things. And I wrote this to Carl Martin, and they didn't necessarily defend it. They just said, hey, this is the way it is, and in the next version, it will be, for example, smaller. This thing is freaking huge, okay? It's a very, very big looper. It definitely uses up a lot of space on your pedal board. If you choose to get it, you know what you're getting into. The next one will be a little bit smaller. I said I like the dip switch idea, but first of all, I don't think they're very sexy. And secondly, it would be nice to have caps on them to protect them. What if I arrive at my gig and some cable or something switched them around? They assured me it has never happened, and I truly believe that. And it's not an issue. So, it's not an issue. Okay. Also, the foot switches are relatively small, relatively close together. If you have bigger feet, this could be an issue. And I suggested to actually make them crisscross. So 1 is here, 2 is up here, 3 is here, 4 is here. So crisscross them. And you know what they're doing? On the next version, they already had planned that. So the next version will be a little bit smaller and crisscross steppy thingies. That was really all that I, bitched about. Other than that, it's extremely sturdy, it's heavy, battery operated. Now, we're gonna go and pick a pedal board to put this behemoth of a beautifully red looper on. And my lovely assistant Leslie will help me in filming that. Hello, so we're in my living room where I'm doing some boardy stuff. And we're gonna pick a board. Now, since this is a big ass thing, I'm gonna show you what it looks like on different sizes. This is a Joyo board. It is 30 by 60 or 30 by 59 or something. So when you put that on there, check it out. There isn't an awful lot of space left for pedals. Now I said I want to put 6 pedals on there. Might work, because I'm not using all 8. I want to use the outputs. I have to see, doing this definitely doesn't work. Going down here, so I'm thinking I would move it up here, take the pedals, take the cables down there, and that it doesn't necessarily leave me an awful lot of room for pedals, but it might work. So the next would be the second biggest pedal train board, which is called, I think it's called the Pedal Train Pro, not the Grande. This is 40 by 80. Now this is already a ridiculously big board. But with 6 pedals on it, or we would have an easy time doing this. So I could actually have the looper right here with the cables going down, and I could put some bigger pedals on here, which is probably the option I might go for. Now, if you're a very crazy motherfucker, you might choose to put this on a board like this. See, it's all relative. On a board like this, even the Carl Martin OCTASWITCH looks rather small. So, it's all about percentages, Something that's usually very small might look rather big, and you know what I mean. So this is 4 Joyo boards put together. How I did that is there's a video on my channel, and that means it's 60 by 120, and of course completely not movable and ridiculous. And we're gonna put it together at some point and actually cable it up. And in that build, I might include the OCTASWITCH as probably like the 3rd looper, because it's gonna have about 30 pedals on it. So, but I'm thinking that's just a little bit too unrealistic for now. So we're gonna go with this one and wire it up. Okay. I already have two of the Moen MI ISO 8 blah, 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 something power supplies on there. I do have the Carl Martin Pro Power, which I used extensively, which I like very much. But since they're already on here, I'm just gonna be lazy and use those. And also, they kind of match it in color, so I hope Carl Martin is not gonna be too pissed about that, since I use the Pro Power quite a bit and show it. Okay, so we're gonna use this, and of course it also has lights. Black light, but I mean, pedalboard without lighting is just lame. Okay, so I'm gonna build that now for you. So, we built the board, you've seen it, and to my amazement, exactly what I wanted to happen happens, and it just works. So that might either speak for my brilliance or for a good product by Carl Martin. So what we are doing here is a little bit, this is like how it was intended to be used, and we're kind of going a little bit around it, which means one or two functions we can't use, but it shows you something that is very, very flexible, which I frankly did not know the thing could do. So let me show you. Come down here, follow me. What we have, can zoom out a little bit so you see what we're doing. I have the Mobius as my modulation in loop number 1, and then we got the gold standard in loop 2. We have, I think that's what we did, the Gainiac in 3, the Gainiac Germanium in 4, then another slide overdrive in 5, and in 6 we got the El Capistan delay. So those are our 6 pedals that we're using. Pedal number 7, which is the headroom, I actually have in the FX loop of the Sur. So it's not looped into this looper. But what we can do is, by using switch number 1, I can turn this on and off in the FX loop. So it's pretty much as if it's in a loop, and I have control over it. So let's say right now on number 3, I want it on. All I do is dip switch on 3. See what happened? It turned on. So it's showing me it's on, and I can turn it off again. So I can, for each preset, determine whether the reverb is on or not. I still have control over A and B if I wanted that, but I don't need that. I just have the reverb on. So what's happening is loop number 7 is not used as a loop. You see there's no return. Loop number 7, I'm going out to the Sur, right there. Okay, so that's simply just an output to the Sur, which is being mic'd down in the basement. I'm not using the cap we have here. Then loop number 8 is also not coming back, and it is going out straight into the PRS amp up there, which is also being mic'd down in the basement. So I can switch between 2 different amps. What I cannot do is have both amps at the same time. because if I have loop number 7 engaged, which I would do right here, okay, there's of course nothing coming back, and I can't go to the next amp, so that doesn't work. It's either or, either the SUR or the PRS, so there's no bi-amping, it's amp switching. But that also means that if I use this amp or this amp, no signal is being channeled into the actual outputs of the Carl Martin, which means if I hit bypass, it doesn't do anything. Bypass would bypass all the loops, which means no signals going to the amps. So bypass will mute your signal completely, but not bypass the looper. So if you wanted to go to a clean amp, you actually have to make a preset for that. So that's the drawback of this setup, but it's a very, very cool, very unique and flexible setup. So let me show you 2 sounds are programmed, and then we program one ourselves. Sound number 1 is nothing but the Mobius on a cool rotary setting going into the SUR. That's it. But recognize this, the switch is on, which means I'm also using the spring reverb, the headroom, in the effects loop of the SUR, which will sound like this. There's the beautiful spring reverb. Of course, I can go and change it. And now, check out how freaking cool this is. With the switch of one button, I can turn this back off. Okay. Go to my other amp out of 8, engage the Mrs. O drive in loop number 5, the El Capistan in loop number 6. So right now I have a slight overdrive going into a tape delay, going out into my PRS amp, which right now there I have switched to clean. So dip switch number 2 is up, which means on preset number 2 this is active. And if I switch this, look up there, look up on the PRS amp. Right now it's on blue, which we want. But if I put dip switch number 2 down, okay. I'm really wondering if the mic up there is recording that. I guess we'll find out. Probably not. So there's the sound we have now. And switching 3 pedals and amp and another pedal. So let's do preset number 3, and that should be it for today. All off, which means right now it's not going anywhere, right? So we got nothing. So what I'm gonna do is I first pick my amp. Let's say I want to go to the SUR, okay? So 7 I turn on, a little bit fidgety. Okay, so 7 is on, which means I'm going to the SUR, which we should hear. On clean. I want the Gainiac on. Let's do that like this. So that's in 1, 2, 3. And I turn loop number 3 on. Beautiful. Actually, is that? And I of course want some delay on that, so that would be number 6. Turn 6 on. Okay, well, everything we want is right here. Now, I want to switch on to the other amp. on number 4, I want the PRS again. So all I need to do is engage loop number 8 on 4. We're on. I want the PRS amp to be distorted, which means I'm not even going to use the switch because the PRS is undistorted. But I'm going to push it with the Jedi Gold Standard, which is loop number 2 on. Different amp, completely different setup. Different amp, different setup. I hope you get the idea. So, I hope you get the idea. Congo, get out of the way, stupid doggy. With this setup, we got 7 pedals, 2 amps, 1 pedal is getting switched in the effects loop of 1 amp, and the other amp is also getting switched with channel switching, which for these 4 sounds is a huge variety of different gear involved in just, 4 button presses. Now, I've already said it, if you have these amazingly sexy Crocs on, it might be a problem to switch the OCTASWITCH 2 actually, because you have to kind of use your tippy toes. It helps to have smaller shoes, or of course super fuzzy socks. So if you have these amazingly fuzzy cool socks and just don't use shoes at all, everything works out just fine. So what you need to do is be really cool and have fuzzy socks like this. And then be on stage and play. Now, I personally think that's a freaking cool setup, that I couldn't think to do that with a different looper this effectively and this quickly. Yes, it's big, yes, it's bulky and clunky, and you need to have the fuzzy socks, but come on, who wouldn't want to wear a pair of fuzzy socks in order to operate the Carl Martin OCTASWITCH 2? Okay, there's a third one coming, which is smaller, but buy this one anyway. In case you want to buy, please use the link under my video, and I'm pretty sure that my lovely assistant Leslie will put a link to the looper comparison video right after, well, now, kind of. Let's say she's gonna put the link like here. Right there. We're gonna make a little thing, and right there we're gonna put the link. Okay. Have a good one, guys.